Hey, what's up, and welcome to the new episode of the podcast. So far, we've been covering the first round of the playoffs, and as of today, which is the 16th of September, the second round has just been completed. So we are going to be reviewing every single game from the second round, featuring from the Eastern Conference, Miami versus Milwaukee, and Boston versus Toronto. Also on the west side, we have the Lakers versus the Rockets and the Clippers versus the Nuggets. So far, in my opinion, the second round has been really entertaining and nerve-wracking for many franchises and fans all around the world because these series have been going to game sevens, it's been fights, there's been a lot of things going on. So, yeah. Armands, do you want to start off by, talking a little about the Miami and Milwaukee series?
Yeah, just unexpected things overall from all the semifinals. But with the Heat and Milwaukee, I think we both had a 6-game, like Milwaukee in 6. Is that what you had in your prediction?
I had Milwaukee in 6, or in
Yeah.
7, one or the other.
I thought, I really did think Heat was going to be a problem for Milwaukee just because they match up pretty well. But, this is something I did not expect at all. Almost a sweep. But, even with Giannis having a bad ankle, it was a 4-1 to the Miami Heat. It was crazy. It was crazy to watch. It just proves that, the Heat's motion offense, it's going to be a problem for anyone they play because when they start moving the ball around, it's really hard to contain them. And yes, Spoelstra just did an amazing job with that. And from Milwaukee's side, I remember last podcast episode, I said Middleton and Bledsoe has to step up if they want to, do something in the playoffs moving forward. They didn't step up. And yeah, they were just a bad matchup. But you gotta give Heat the props, especially Tyler Hero and Jimmy Butler. Those are my two highlights.
I gotta I gotta give Miami credit here because what I've learned from teams like Miami and Denver is that knowing your role, ball movement, and solid coaching will get you far in the playoffs. At least with the Miami series, we can clearly see that Eric Spoelstra has outcoached the living hell out of Mike Budenholzer. And I don't think that that's even a question because looking at the sets and looking at the plays and the setups that Spoelstra was setting up, it was to counter the likes of Giannis, but also shutting down Middleton. Miami, they were switching a lot and they were putting all these bodies, tough bodies on Middleton and Giannis, which was making it tough on them. So, but what this also has proved to me is that you need a solid bench who will step up in the playoffs, and with that will come experience, such as the additions of Iguodala, who has rings, and Jay Crowder, who's a tough guy, and he's played well in the playoffs, especially for Boston. But also, what surprised me was seeing players such as Tyler Hero step up really, really nicely for the Heat.
He's only 20.
He's only 20, and he's playing like as he's been there for years right now. He can play make really well, he can shoot the ball well, and he's not afraid of the moment because he's had that game winner versus the 76ers in the playoffs, and he's also had several clutch shots in the playoffs as well.
Wait, who?
Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero had he had a few. I know he had a clutch shot in versus Milwaukee in the game they lost. He hit a few threes down the stretch, although it wasn't enough.
You said 76ers.
No, but in the regular season, he had a game winner versus the 76ers.
Yeah.
Jimmy Butler steals it from Embiid. Tyler Hero takes it down the three-point line, hits it over Tobias Harris, I think.
Right.
Yeah, it was that game. But yeah, Miami is a dangerous team to be feared in the playoffs. But Milwaukee, it's just I'm watching Giannis, and it's just everything has to revolve around him. I'm not seeing as much ball movement, and Miami has exposed the Bucks system that they're not shooting as well from the three as they like to be. They have Brook Lopez, they have DiVincenzo, they have George Hill, and they have Middleton. But who else can really shoot the ball necessarily? Plus,
I think their whole bench is technically made to shoot threes. It's just a bad series for all the role players in general.
Yeah, I think in general, Miami was the worst thing that could have happened to Milwaukee, and that's 100% proof of that.
But I think Budenholzer deserves a little blame here because we've talked about the amount of minutes he plays his star players.
Yeah,
And
that got.
you would think in the playoffs they would play more, but it wasn't the case this time. And I was really surprised that, like, even though they were down 0-2, backs on their walls, they still decided to play Middleton and Giannis only like 34, 35 minutes, which is, I don't think it's really what you should do come playoff time.
Yeah, like I remember Bud when he was coaching the number one seed Atlanta team, proceeded to get swept by LeBron, by the way. But still, like, I guess we could see it coming because the playoff time is where you have to see your most valuable players, step up. And if you played them a little bit over 30 minutes a game, we don't get to see that. But yeah, Mike Budenholzer, in my opinion, deserves to take some of the blame, at least. Not as much, Giannis, although he struggled and he was injured, I'll give him a little bit of benefit of the doubt, but the playoffs proved that he's gonna need to learn how to shoot in order to become more successful in the playoffs.
The thing is, I think it's funny because we've always said Harden is like a regular season player, or like that's the general consensus. He's a regular season player. In the playoffs, he starts choking. I think we might found something from the coaches department as well.
Oh yeah.
Budenholzer, I wouldn't say it was a choke when he was with Atlanta, but because Cleveland, they were a pretty good team at the time. But 0-4 in that series was a disappointment. Last year as well, losing to Toronto while being up 2-0, I think that could be considered a choke. And now losing in the semifinals, I think he has to make some adjustments, like Spo did. But he has to make some adjustments to, adapt because playoffs is just a different beast.
Yeah, it's completely different compared to the regular season. We can clearly see that. Like, it's crazy to see how, a team can suddenly struggle that much when they're considered the favorites in the conference. And it's not like they were, barely favorites. I think Milwaukee were kind of heavy favorites to come out of the East.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess enough about that series. The next series we have is, in my opinion, tied for the most exciting playoff series in the second round is the Boston versus Toronto series. Now, I've been paying attention to a lot of the games, all of them, and the majority of the time. And what I learned is we could clearly see Kemba's inexperience in the playoffs here. Toronto, they were doing the box and one set up to stop specifically Kemba, and when you have players like Lowry, players like Van Vliet who can get steals on you and they play physical on you, I expect you to struggle, but I didn't expect Kemba to struggle that bad. I didn't expect him to have single digits in points. I expected him to average more or less like 15 points per game, on a good, on an okay night. But I just didn't see that from him, Also, on the other side of the spectrum, Marc Gasol and Pascal Siakam, they were almost nowhere to be seen on Toronto's side. I kind of felt a little bit bad for them. But yeah, Boston, knowingly, they won it in 7. It was really close from both sides. It was an exciting playoff series, but the players who stepped up were notably, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and on, Toronto's side, we saw a lot of Fred VanVleet and Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, what I have to say, Siakam definitely got neutralized. Basically, it just proved that he only has like 1 or 2 moves he does with the spin and everything. And if you just have a lot of good defenders that can switch, it's kind of easy to contain. Now, he did have some bad shooting nights, and if he did score some of the buckets that he missed, some easy buckets, he would certainly have more points than he did. But I think Boston did a terrific job on him, and Siakam, he's one of the guys that deserves the blame for this because if he plays just a little bit better, I think the series could have been turned upside down. I agree with you with Gasol. He just looked washed, and I think the only bright spots, or the 3 bright spots for the Raptors were Lowry, Ibaka, and Anunoby. All clutch. Anunoby with that Game 3 game winner, which turned the series upside down, basically. It could have been 4-0 sweep. But yeah, it went 7 games. Ibaka We know like he had like 50% from three the whole series, and he was just torching us. So we had nobody to stop him. And Lowry, as Brad Stevens said, one of the most underrated players in the league. Even though he's 35, he's still playing like an all-star. Even without Kawhi, uh, they look like a scary team. Could you imagine this team with Kawhi?
If that team still had Kawhi, I think they'd be heavy favorites just because it was almost the same team, or it was the same team coming back. Only that the Fred VanVleet and Siakam are much more improved. But I'll also give like players who, in my opinion, players who deserve props who may have gotten a little bit under the radar for Boston are Marcus Smart and Norman Powell on each of their respective teams. I knew Norman Powell was always, a guy under the rough. He'll always show up when you need to. And in that one game, which forced Game 7, you could clearly see Norman Powell, starting to wake up, But also Marcus Smart for Boston, just, the embodiment of heart and soul for that team. He's there when they need him constantly. And, he's proving that the contract he got, in my opinion right now, is too little for what Boston gave him. So I think, it's a steal that Boston got Marcus Smart for that price, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah, he was the MVP of the series by far. And even without Hayward, the Celtics did look like a better team. They had 2 blowout games, and they lost. All the games they lost were pretty tight. And they had to earn everything they got. And, from the Celtics, even though Kemba did play sluggishly, I would just like to see more team play instead of relying on hero ball late in the game. Other than that, I think they looked pretty good without one of their best players in Hayward.
I could imagine what would happen if Gordon Hayward played. I think the series would have been a lot more different because Hayward brings in a lot of that playmaking that maybe we missed a little bit during that series.
So yeah, we have 2 tough teams with the Celtics and the Heat in the finals.
I
Both
think
teams have kind of, gone ahead of their expectation a little bit. I know a lot for the Heat, but a little bit for the Celtics. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, I think the Miami and Boston series is going to be a huge bloodbath. I think it's just, an explosion waiting to happen, personally. But yeah, I guess that's it for the east side of the playoffs. I guess we can now go on the western side, and we have the number 1 seed Lakers versus the 5th seed, the Houston Rockets. The series ended 4-1, if I'm correct, and I guess every NBA 7-footer center, I guess they're breathing now a sigh of relief that the Lakers won. Because imagine if the small ball Houston team beat LA. Not that I predicted it, but just saying what if, The future of the centers would have been in grave danger if Houston won. But, LeBron James and Anthony Davis said no to that, LeBron James, as far what I was seeing, he was just bodying Westbrook every game. Blocking him, dunking on him. Also, Westbrook having beef with Rondo's brother, a lot of that stuff. But yeah, Lakers, I see them coming out of the West. But, Lakers just prove that they are a championship contending team. They have players who know their role. And they have the best players to step up when they need them. But for Houston's side, Houston were doing that 5-out setup, nobody in the paint. And it was just, for the playoffs, in my opinion, that kind of offense is not necessarily built for the playoffs, I've seen that many teams winning in the playoffs, they're relying on off-the-ball movement and transition. Houston wasn't doing that as much. But I was noticing during one of the series that the Lakers were doing some sort of zone defense to stop Houston from hitting those threes. And for all I can tell, it worked completely perfectly because since there's no off-ball movement, I was noticing that, the Houston Rockets are just standing there, and it's basically a perfect opportunity to do a zone defense.
You know what I noticed?
Yeah, what did you notice?
Starting from like game 3, I think I didn't see a guy named Daniel House Jr. on the Rockets team. I wonder what happened to him. He was he was a big part of their team, and like suddenly he just decided to disappear.
Yeah, he just dipped.
But I think the Harden, he said that was a major distraction. The whole Daniel House situation. I think he's a solid role player, and he did his role. As you said, good teams, they have to have role players who know what they have to do on the team. I think Daniel House is one of those players. Regarding what you said about the centers, Los Angeles only played Anthony Davis as a center. They had Markieff Morris starting at the power forward, and none of JaVale or Dwight played any minutes at all, meaning that they did respect what Houston was doing. But it's just the team they have. It's so unique. I don't think the centers are in danger, but I do think the centers need to shoot in order for them to be formidable.
Yeah, at least how I see the league will be going in the next few years, centers are gonna have to shoot more, or at least get a capable mid-range game to help stretch out the floor. You know.
With Houston, Westbrook, I think it's hard. It's going to be hard for Houston in general because I don't think Westbrook meshes that well with Harden. Of course, he said he was injured. He didn't have that much time to heal. But on that note, they were leaving him wide open. He could knock down the three on a system that's relying on threes. So, and he's on a big contract. So
they were giving they're giving him the Ben Simmons treatment right now.
It sucks because they traded away a player who was actually been better this year, Chris Paul. And the reason why they traded him away was because of health issues. And we kind of got the same thing with Westbrook, and it's just unfortunate for him. I know what a player he can be, and if the team is clicking, they can be really deadly, but it just didn't show this series at all.
Yeah, thing is, Westbrook's mid-range game is absolutely excellent. It's just that he just can't shoot the threes necessarily,
Oh, one more thing I want to say about the Lakers. Of course, start of the bubble they were kind of rusty. I think when we did our video on where we rank all the teams, I think we ranked Lakers on the bottom. I don't know if we necessarily had them F tier, but I think we had them either D or C tier.
They were low to mid tier at least.
Yeah.
On the regular
mainly
season.
because they didn't have any scoring, and because Davis looked rusty. I think that's changed a lot. I think Davis has played a lot better. Well, obviously not the final. Or he was 4 of 9 in the game 5. LeBron has played well, and boy, Rajon Rondo. I don't think playoff Rondo ever ceases to not exist anymore. He's just there all the time. And we've seen him this playoffs as well. It's like he came back from an injury, and if nothing happened, he's 27 in his prime, all-star Rondo. When it's the playoff times, he just decides to I think I'm gonna start playing now.
It just proves that Rondo is a capable winner. He just knows, he's just a born winner, I guess you can say. He was one of the best players we had during our championship run in Boston. In Chicago, he was a difference maker when we had Isaiah Thomas on the team. And when he got injured, that's when we started to win. In New Orleans, he was a different breed. And even in LA now, he's just absolutely exceptional as a part of, this Lakers team.
I'm looking at the stats he produced, and he had a near triple-double, a 21-point game. He was shooting 54% from 3 that series.
Oh my god.
And if you know Rajon Rondo, he's not a good shooter, but I think times change, and I think he's aged pretty well. I can't say the same for the regular season, but what he's shown so far, it's crazy. It's crazy what kind of players you can get for minimum contracts or almost minimum contracts, and Rondo's definitely earned every penny he's gotten, and he should get even more, even though he's so old. But yeah, I also liked most of the supporting cast for the Lakers. I think they all stepped up.
Yeah, what I also liked is Alex Caruso. Although for one of the games, I remember in the playoffs, he had 0 points, but his plus minus was plus 20 something. So, even, Caruso, even he knows how to do his role completely perfectly, He can just, he can affect the game without having, eye-popping stats. It's the little things that he does, which he brings to the table. And I think every championship team is going to need a guy like Caruso, to bring that, energy, constant energy, they can suddenly do something, and then suddenly your team has momentum. I think he's one of those guys.
I saw a video about a guy like it was a Houston Rockets fan. He was having his own podcast, and he just got so mad about the fact that some kind of random player named Alex Caruso was dropping 14, 16 points a game versus Houston, saying that he's not that good of a player. I just thought it was funny. But I think LeBron and Frank Vogel did a really good job of setting up teammates for them to be in the right positions to score. And overall, I was just I guess I was pleased with I'm not a Lakers fan, but I was pleased with the way the Lakers are playing, and I think they're hitting their top point at the right time.
Yeah, like they're playing like how they were supposed to be, at least compared to the bubble regular season. Like they're playing right now as a true one seed. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
All right, so for the last series, which is the series which ended yesterday, we have the Clippers versus Nuggets, 3-1. But damn, there's something about this Nuggets team that just reminds me of the 04 Pistons team which won the chip, coming into the playoffs, nobody necessarily saw Denver coming out of the second round to the conference finals, just because of the Clippers. The Clippers are bigger favorites than Denver. They have a finals MVP. They have defense. They have sixth man of the year, former and current. They have Paul George, who I don't even want to get into right now. But yeah, Denver, Jamal Murray just proves that, he's been an absolute baller this playoffs. And I'm not even going to discredit Michael Porter Jr. and also Jokic, who I'm going to proudly say now is the best center in the league, He's been doing those one-legged fadeaways from three and from, more specifically, also the right side of the mid-range area, and just hitting them. And you can try the double Jokic, but don't get me wrong, you can double him. But the thing is, he kind of wants to be doubled because he's such an excellent passer. Finds the open man, and with this Denver team, they always find the open man swinging the ball perfectly. And they kind of expose the Clippers on that. Plus, we also have Jaren Grant, who impressed me a lot as well.
Do you want some trivia?
What's up?
Do you know what Jokic's that right leg shot is called?
I have no idea what it's called.
The somber shuffle. That's what he calls it.
Damn, I did not know that. I guess that's the move what Harden tried to do. Somewhat of another variant, but Jokic just does it in such a weird way that I've never seen something like it.
It looks awkward, but the reason why he started doing that was because he injured his left ankle a couple seasons prior, so he had to start shooting from his right leg just to relieve the pressure. And ever since, it just started becoming a signature shot.
Do you think that could be a go-to move like Kareem's skyhook or Dirk's one-legged fadeaway?
Yeah.
It is a one-legged fadeaway, but Jokic has his own twist on it.
Yeah, you just got a goofy twist on it. It looks really goofy, but if it goes in, I can't doubt the guy. He played great.
I mean, he's shooting those things like he's been shooting it since he came out the womb, okay? I will never doubt Jokic for taking an awkward-looking shot because, he's had a few awkward game winners, such as last year versus Dallas, that hook shot that looked like it was nowhere near going in, but it dropped anyway, swished it. But
yeah,
I guess
he's known for all those goofy.
Yeah, but I guess if any other player would have done something like that, it doesn't look like it would have gone in,
That's true.
But yeah, for me, Jokic is establishing himself as a perfect center. A center who can quote unquote do it all. Although he has a few defensive issues, he can rebound, he can score, and he can pass. And he's a somewhat capable defender. He tries at least. But yeah,
he had 2 steals and 3 blocks in Game 7.
But yeah, after this series, it just proves to me that Jokic is the best center in the NBA. Joel is nice, but Joel has had a few problems in the playoffs. In the regular season, he's had some consistency issues, and also Karl Anthony Towns, he hasn't had that much playoff success. So I think those are the top 3. But Jokic, with his resume so far, I gotta put him at the top, at least after watching this series.
All props to Denver for what they did. First team ever to come back from multiple 3-1 deficits
in the same playoff run.
Yeah, so that's crazy. I like all the players they have. Uh, Gary Harris, he came back quite recently. He wasn't starting when the bubble started, but he's craved a pretty decent role. As you said, you said he was like he fell off this season. That's what you said.
He
But
was
in the playoffs, he stepped up a little bit.
Yeah,
And
like in the regular season or in these past 2-3 years, it's blatantly obvious that he's been disappearing a little bit more and a little bit more, and the stats show that his points were going less. He was getting less minutes, but maybe. But I can see Gary Harris, possibly staying on the Nuggets because he's been such a valuable playoff performer right now. I was noticing in Game 6, he was hitting some clutch shots down the stretch, which we can't ignore necessarily.
even Game 7.
Even Game 7 as well.
That was crazy. But yeah, as I said, all the props to Denver, but damn, the Clippers, they did a masterful choke job. I don't even know who to blame. Like, it's a lot of people.
I gotta put some blame on a lot. In my opinion, a lot of the blame has to go for Doc Rivers. He has a history of choking 3-0 and 3-1 leads. He did it
The
in
third
Boston.
time, I think.
Third time, yes, and I think he deserves some of the blame for it because if it's a common occurrence that you've choked in the playoffs, something has to, the coaches needs at least some of the blame, but also, Lou Williams, he didn't see much of him. Paul George, he had 10 points in Game 7. Kawhi had 14. And Kawhi was 6 of 22. I think he needs some of the blame. You need to step up if you're going to do well. But the thing is, I'm not going to Kawhi, he's been trying to carry this team. I think he's been one of the best bright spots for the Clippers this postseason. But, I can't ignore Paul George, I don't understand how with around 4 minutes left on the game, you hit the side of the backboard on a corner three. I think
He's
that
called passenger seat P for a reason.
Pandemic P, playoff P, goodness gracious. But I think, man, I wish Paul George all the success in the world, but, I can't, I want him to succeed, but if he plays like that, you just can't help but, think about it, that he's not been that good in the playoffs, at least for these past few years, at least.
And in retrospect, if you look at the trade they made with Oklahoma.
Yeah, Oklahoma finessed them so well. They have.
I know they still have a
picks.
window, but
They got 7 picks and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, as well as Gallinari, right?
yeah.
All for 10 points in the. Yeah, Oklahoma really finessed the living crap out of the Clippers right here.
The Clippers, Leonard and George shot 10 of 38 in Game 7 combined.
Oh my goodness! So in game 7, who do you think was the bright spot for the Clippers at least? If
Do
they
I have
had,
to do I have to name somebody? No.
If they had one.
No, they did not.
Notably, no. If the main players don't step up, who else could? We didn't necessarily see that with Lou Williams, who was the 6th man of the year last year, and I didn't see that much of Harrell. I didn't see that much of him either, necessarily.
When I said they were going to win the championship, or that at least that was my prediction, my statement was that they're the deepest team in the NBA. I still kind of agree with that, but none of the players showed up, and that's really rare. That absolutely nobody stepped up.
I guess
Even Williams and Harrell, who were both competing for the 6th man of the year, they couldn't even stay on the court because they had defensive issues. And Williams was just like, both of them were kind of series.
Yeah, the Nuggets were targeting Lou Williams several times on defense because he's around 6 foot, and he doesn't necessarily play defense. So I guess that helped with the case as well for Denver winning. But yeah, Jamal Murray was activating, his inner Kobe bag with the fadeaways and everything. You just love to see it. You just love to see Jamal Murray just pop off like that.
He's only 23.
Oh yeah, he's only 23 and he's just going to get better and better. But it just proves that, you're going to want Jamal Murray in the playoffs. Because also Rajon Rondo is an example. You don't have to be perfect at the regular season at all. But if you can step up in the playoffs, every team that are at least 1 through 8 or contending for an 8 seed, they're going to want a player like that. And it just proves again and again that playoff success is just such a huge element. Also playoff experience as well.
Did you see the video after like the Nuggets and Clippers game where, the Nuggets locker room?
Oh yeah, they were hype. They were very hype.
Some people say that they didn't pour water. Like that wasn't water coming, but it was the Clippers' tears.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I saw
bit
that.
Of it.
Yeah,
but, I think the Lakers are really happy right now. Like you would still think the Clippers are a better matchup against the Lakers if you want to see like a full-blown 7-game series. But I think what I have to say after this series is watch out for the Nuggets. I think they're really confident right now, and they could actually, I actually do not believe they're gonna beat the Lakers, but if they do, my gosh, like they've deserved everything they've gotten.
The thing is, it's kind of like a win-win situation for the Denver Nuggets because they've gotten down from 3-1 twice. They're playing like they have nothing to lose, and all the pressure are on the Lakers right now because they are the favorites in the West right now.
That's true.
Like the thing is, I believe Denver, with how they've been playing with 3-1 down, they will make it insanely tough on the Lakers because they have so many good role players who know their job. Like they have Monte Morris, who's been playing well, Michael Porter Jr., Paul Millsap, etc. Even Mason Plumlee, he can do an okay job on Anthony Davis maybe. And the thing is, they can do a small ball lineup with, for example, Grant and or Millsap. And if they have, Dwight Howard and or JaVale McGee on it, it'll be a little bit more tough because they're going to have to stretch the floor. They're going to have McGee, they're going to have him a little bit outside of the paint. For example, if he plays. But only time will tell how the series will go, but I think that series...
I have a question before,
Yeah, what's up?
The conference finals are coming up. Who do you see going to the finals?
I
think
see
if you look at it from a standings perspective, we could possibly see the greatest rematch or like the greatest history in like championship wise with the Lakers and Celtics.
The Lakers and Celtics. Right now, currently the Heat are 1-0 up against Boston, but I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk for either team in both of the conferences for the finals. I think it's going to be a tough series. Although I think for the Lakers, because Denver came back from 3-1 twice, you're going to see some fatigue. But I think Los Angeles, they're probably going to win in 6. But thing is, I'm not discouraging Denver at all. Like, I'm not saying it's impossible for them to, come to 7. I can see Denver forcing 7. Because Denver's been playing like they have nothing to lose. But also with Miami and Boston, although Miami's 1-0 up, like Boston, they're not going to go away. Miami, they're going to have to earn that spot to go to the finals. And also for Boston, they're going to have to earn their place in the finals. Because
it would be crazy to see Miami in the finals. Like, they were, like, out of the teams that are currently left, I would not expect the Heat. If you told me at the start of the season, I would not expect them to go to the finals. But they've just shown, like, they proved me wrong ever since. So it's gonna be crazy to watch. Be crazy to watch.
I think what played a huge part in Miami's success is team fit and coaching staff. Eric Spoelstra with the Miami Heat culture, Jimmy Butler fits that perfectly. Plus they have, rookies who don't want to, try and be the number one guy, but they have rookies who want to, win and play their part. And a huge part of that, I got to include Duncan Robinson shooting shooting threes in a really good rate. Kendrick Nunn, all rookie first team. Tyler Hero, and all rookie second team. Those 3 guys, in my opinion, are a huge part for their success as well. Also, Bam Adebayo and his underrated playmaking as well. And I also cannot forget Goran Dragic, who used to be an all-star, and he's playing like that for Game 1 versus Celtics. I will not forget that.
Oh, he's been playing like an all-star the whole playoffs. It's been crazy to see his resurgence.
Whole bubble. But do you think I think next season he could be a sneaky 6th man of the year candidate next season. Although he's going to be
after they named
agent.
Harrell, after they named Harrell the 6th man of the year, I don't even know what to believe now.
Yeah, but
I thought it was pretty in the bag for Schroeder.
Yeah, me too. But isn't Goran Dragic gonna be a free agent next season?
That's true.
I
Yeah.
think if he signs with Miami and he takes that bench role again, if they don't win, I can easily see them running it back again this year. With Goran Dragic 6-man, and I could see him become a 6-man of the year, personally, next season. But
Yeah, they have a nice blend of old and young.
yeah, so I guess right now that is concluded the second round of the playoffs. We've said our thoughts. So far, we're gonna wait to see what's gonna go on with the new games. The finals are coming up. The conference finals for each of those teams right now are gonna play out. So far, Miami's 1-0 up, and we're still waiting for Denver and LA. Only time will tell. We'll see how the series are gonna go, and I'm really excited to see how this will play out.